The year is 1917. Two sisters of the precious blood open the doors of the first Catholic high school in Arizona to 17 students, 5 boys and 12 girls. This is the genesis of St. Mary's High School and the beginning of Catholic secondary education in Arizona. Until the Sisters of the Precious Blood established St. Mary's a century ago, the young Catholic men and women of Phoenix had no high school to call their own. In response to this need and motivated by their love for Christ and His Blessed Mother, the founders of St. Mary's planted the seeds of Catholic secondary education in Phoenix as an act of faith. As with anything planted in the desert, there were no guarantees that St. Mary's would survive its early days. Nevertheless, with a rugged determination that has become a hallmark of St. Mary's Catholic High School, the sisters pressed on in confident hope that their work would take root and bear good fruit. It has. Today, the school's deep roots and far-reaching branches intertwine with those of the city and the state it has grown up alongside. St. Mary's was founded only 5 years after Arizona became a state. Over the course of 100 years, the school and the community have seen many changes. In the beginning, St. Mary's operated out of a couple of borrowed classrooms in St. Anthony's Grammar School. But after its second year, the sisters were able to erect a one-story building on 3rd Street and Monroe, across the street from St. Mary's Church. The cost? $14,000. St. Mary's has thrived because so many of its caretakers have been good and generous men and women who regularly made a gift of themselves to others. One such woman was Sister Mary Celesta, the first principal of St. Mary's Catholic High School. In 1918, in the midst of her duties as a teacher and principal, Sister took it upon herself to learn how to drive a Ford Model T so that she could tutor Native American children on the reservation. Celesta Hall bears her name. That same year, a baby boy was born who would grow up to become another of the school's caretakers after the Franciscan friars assumed responsibility for the school from the Sisters of the Precious Blood. He too would have a building named after him. He is none other than St. Mary's very own Father Blaise Cronin. In 1941, the Knights win their first state title. St. Mary's would go on to win 20 state titles and one national title in various sports, establishing the school as one of the most significant athletic powerhouses in state history. In the words of legendary trainer Horace Pieri, "We may not be the biggest, but we have the firm conviction that we can be the best." St. Mary's existed as 2 student bodies with 2 campuses until 1961. The year St. Mary's once again becomes a single coeducational school. The girls' school is closed, and 7 new rooms are added to the existing boys' school. 3rd Street and Polk is the place where so many St. Mary's traditions were developed and sustained. It was there that legendary figures such as Father Alonzo de Blas and Coach Pat Farrell came to prominence and changed the school forever. Many members of the community fondly recall their experiences at St. Mary's and were forever inspired by Father Blaise Cronin, a Franciscan father who served over 50 years of his life as an educator, principal, and chaplain of St. Mary's. The famous phrase, "Once a night, always a night," is attributed to him. The school moved to its new location in 1989. But students are reminded of their roots and traditions when they eat lunch by the 3rd Street and Polk street signs, pray in the Seat of Wisdom grotto under the old St. Mary's Arch, or fondly rub Father Blaise's bronze image on the plaque by the chapel as they exit the chapel after team mass. Several years ago, a local sports writer covering our girls' basketball team and their bid for a national championship remarked that the fatal mistake so many of our opponents made when competing against us was waiting for us to get tired before bringing their A game. St. Mary's doesn't get tired, he wrote, not knowing how true his words really were. This year, our beloved school turns 100 years old. But St. Mary's has the vitality of a much younger school. The reason for this is simple. We are connected to a living tradition. St. Mary's is more than a building, more than a location. Since our founding in 1917, the young men and women of Phoenix have come to St. Mary's to receive an outstanding Catholic liberal arts education that fosters faith, promotes academic and athletic achievement, and encourages civic responsibility. In the years leading up to our Centennial, St. Mary's has worked hard to focus our mission, strengthen our curriculum, and build up our athletic programs. We are convinced that the integral formation we offer in discipleship, scholarship, and sportsmanship is unmatched in the state. When the Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, became a part of our faculty in 2006, they brought with them an emphasis on the virtues. The Dominican heritage is one that focuses on a positive morality of excellence, and the sisters witness to this by their joyful presence on our campus. The sisters and their emphasis on forming the whole person has been a beautiful continuation of the mission begun by the Precious Blood Sisters in 1917. St. Mary's also has a long tradition of educating some of Arizona's most successful citizens, including prominent members of the business community and public servants such as the police and fire chiefs, doctors, lawyers, teachers, politicians, religious leaders, and an astounding number of professional athletes. We have several fourth-generation students currently enrolled at the school. Now entering its second century of Catholic education, St. Mary's lives on in our families' hearts. St. Mary's is a family that spans generations, communities, and cultures, being the first high school in Arizona to fully integrate and serve a diverse population of students. Over the course of our first century, we have survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the relocation of our school, and countless other challenges. We have graduated over 10,000 students, won numerous state and national championships, and changed the face of Phoenix and Arizona. St. Mary's first building, like many others from that era, is long gone. The institution it housed, however, endures. Why? The answer to that question is engraved in the cornerstone of the school gymnasium. Hoc fecit amor. Love made this. Buildings built by hired hands and made of brick and mortar inevitably fall apart. But St. Mary's was built by something greater. It was built by love, and love never fails.